This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
Is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
There's a strange quiet that settles into the lives of grieving. It doesn't arrive all at once, not like the news that triggers it. That part comes fast, a knock at the door, a phone call, a word you can't unhear. But the quiet, it seeps in. It lingers. It replaces the normal rhythm of things. And once it is there, it stays. You wake up to it. You go to sleep with it. It threads through your days in ways that never fully make sense. Stacy Chapin knows that quiet. She lives with it. Her son, Ethan Chapin, he was 20 years old when he was murdered in November of 2022, along with three of his close friends, his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, and her roommates, Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan, 4 college students. Their lives extinguished in their off-campus rental home in Moscow, Idaho. The house was quiet when police arrived, too quiet. There was no forced entry, no alarm, no idea who could have done something so horrifying or why, but there was something else missing too. Even after police arrested 28-year-old criminology PhD student Bryan Kohberger, even after he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, there was no confession, no admission, no insight, and ultimately, no motive. Until there finally was the confession when he realized he had no path forward in court. That last part, it broke some people. Other than the admission, you didn't get the rest. Because when someone you love is taken from you, your brain starts looking for patterns. Why them? Why us? Why that day? And if you don't get that answer, your grief doesn't allow you to know where to land. It just loops again and again, asking questions that don't have answers. It's a form of torment that, as a parent, I hope to God I never have to feel. I hope you don't either. But Stacy didn't take the bait. You can burn up so much energy and time with it, she said in an interview with the Daily Mail, but it doesn't bring Ethan back. And that's one sentence, said plainly, without drama. It's one of the most powerful things anyone in this case has said, because it's the truth. A painful, unchangeable, unbearable truth. Ethan is not coming back. So what do you do with that reality? Some people let it break them. Some channel it into rage. Some become crusaders. Others disappear into their pain. And all of that is understandable. There's no manual for losing a child. But what Stacy did was something different, something quiet, something deliberate. She decided to live. And that sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it? It's not. It's one of the hardest things a person can do after a loss like this, especially when the loss comes by violence, cruelty, and the randomness of someone else's choices. She chose not to attend Kohberger's sentencing hearing. She didn't want to give him that kind of power in her life. It doesn't matter if he explains why, she said. It doesn't change the outcome. And she's right. Closure doesn't come from knowing. It comes from choosing how to carry the not knowing. So Stacy got to work. Not the kind of work that puts you on the news, the kind of work that keeps your feet on the ground. Every day, she and her husband, Jim, take 30 minutes to give back to Ethan. They go for a walk somewhere he liked. They play music he loved. They look at pictures. They remember deliberately. And in doing that, they honor the part of their son that didn't die. His spirit, his joy, his memory. That's not healing in the everything's fine now sense. That's healing in the we're choosing not to fall apart today sense. And that's everything. They also wrote a book, The Boy Who Wore Blue. A children's book inspired by Ethan's love for the color. And more than that, it's about preserving his energy, his essence. It's not a book about murder. It's a book about life. It's not for true crime readers. It's for families, for children, for anyone who needs to be reminded that even in grief, light exists. And there's a foundation. Ethan Smile, a nonprofit dedicated to giving scholarships to students at the University of Idaho and beyond, students who represent the kind of person Ethan was. Not perfect, not a saint, just good, just kind, just alive. The foundation isn't about justice, it's about continuation. It's a decision not to let Ethan's name only live in a courtroom transcript or a police file. It's choosing legacy over tragedy. But let's be clear, none of this means that grief is gone. In fact, Stacy has said the exact opposite. She's admitted that it terrifies her when the grief dims because the pain is part of what keeps Ethan close. It's the paradox every grieving parent knows. You want relief, but you don't want to forget. You want peace, but you're afraid that peace means moving on, and you never really move on. You just learn how to carry the weight. Stacy's way of carrying it, she's turned it into motion. She's made the radical decision not to make her son's killer the center of her story. And that shouldn't be radical, but in this country it is. True crime culture often turns the perpetrator into the main character, the one with a twisted backstory, the one we spend hours dissecting, and in the process, the victims become footnotes. It's not the story Stacy is telling. She's telling Ethan's story. Ethan, who was a triplet, Maze and Hunter, his siblings, still very much alive, still figuring out what life looks like without him. Ethan, who was known for being funny and a little bit wild, who loved sports, loved being outside, loved his people. Ethan, who had only just started his adult life, who had dreams and time, and then didn't. Kohberger, on the other hand, remained silent. Even in his guilty plea, he offered no motive, no statement, no apology, just a signature. And now he'll spend the rest of his life in prison, 4 life sentences, no parole, no execution, at least legally by the state. We'll see how general population treats him if he ever makes it there. Just time, alone with himself. And maybe that's justice. Maybe it isn't. But it's what the legal system delivered, and it's not where Stacy is putting her focus. She's made peace with not knowing. She's made peace with the fact that even if she did know why Kohberger did it, it wouldn't undo anything. It wouldn't bring Ethan back. It wouldn't heal the hole. It wouldn't make any sense, because there is no sense. And whatever random insanity is going through that monster's brain, does it matter at all? No. I would argue the only thing that would arguably make sense to do for those of us living in this world that decide to, well, let's put him in a cage, would be to remove that brain from the body and put it in a meat grinder and never look back again. That doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It just means the hurt isn't in control anymore. See, she's not talking about meat grinders and Kohberger's brain, like a lot of us are. A lot of us feel rage. She's handling it amazingly. Grief like this doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. And the shape it's taken for Stacy Chapin is something most of us would struggle to emulate or find it nearly impossible. It's not flashy. It's not righteous. It's not performative. It's quiet. It's steady. It's grounded. It's what works for her. Something I would argue all of us should strive to be like. And it's a reminder that not all strength looks like fire. Sometimes it looks like water, calm, flowing, persistent. It's not fighting the current. She's learning how to swim in it. Some might say she's letting the killer off the hook emotionally by not focusing on him, but I think that misses the point entirely. Stacy isn't letting anyone off the hook. She's just refusing to drag her soul through the mud of someone else's evil. That's not weakness. That's survival. That is strength. It's more than survival. It's leadership. Whether she intended it or not, Stacy has become an example. A different kind of voice in a world that often shouts for blood, like I do. She's showing that you can honor your pain without being consumed by it. That you can advocate for your child without needing to broadcast your rage. That you can feel everything, and still decide, I will not be destroyed. And that kind of decision, it echoes. It reaches people. It tells other grieving parents, other human beings navigating the wreckage of unexpected loss, that it's okay to not spend your life chasing retribution. That you're allowed to choose healing, even when the world doesn't hand it to you. That's the kind of quiet power that takes a special type of person to embrace. The kind that doesn't need headlines, the kind that doesn't scream, the kind that just keeps showing up every day in small ways, in 30-minute walks, in scholarships, in books read to kids at bedtime, in family dinners where someone's chair is missing but not forgotten. That's what healing can look like. Not complete, not clean, but real. And look, this is not a fairy tale. There are days when I'm sure Stacy Chapin feels like she's drowning. When the quiet becomes unbearable. When the weight of her son's absence is louder than anything else. Grief isn't linear. It's not polite. It doesn't follow rules. It comes in waves. And some waves knock you flat. But she gets back up. And that more than anything is the story. Because Ethan Chapin didn't get a second chance, but his memory does. His family does. And they're choosing to live in a way that reflects who he was, not what happened to him. And in a world that often rewards outrage, that's radical. That's what grace under pressure looks like. That's what choosing love over revenge looks like. That's what a mother's strength, real strength, looks like. It's not easy. It's not fair. It's not over. But it's something we can all learn from. Because if you've ever lost someone, really lost someone, you know the temptation to stay angry, to stay broken, to demand something, anything, to make it feel okay again. But sometimes the only peace you get is a peace you choose to create. And that's what Stacy Chapin has done. She's turned grief into motion, memory into purpose, and love into a quiet kind of defiance. The man who took her son's life may have robbed her of a future she deserved, and he deserved. But he did not rob her of herself. He did not get that. He doesn't get that. And he never will. Tell me your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube if that's where you are. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss our coverage of this and the many cases that we cover for you right here. She's an example. She is an example to live by. I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.